mystery and horror. The air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. He's alive! He's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive, factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I am your master of ceremonies, Sam, and with me, as always, is Dan from Bleeding Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
Hello, Dan.
Hi, Dan. For anyone watching on YouTube, Dan may actually go in and out because her internet is going quite crazy at the minute.
Yes.
But we can still hear her. So you still hear her lovely voice. Just get that little...
I apologise if you think I'm doing the robot at any point. I promise you, I don't have that much energy. It's not actually happening.
No. But they'll just put that out there, so I'm not going to keep going over it in the episode. But today is a special one. Because today is not a monster per se. It is a man who has played a few monsters.
Just a few.
Just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. And today we are going to go over some of his most celebrated characters and a bit about himself too, as we do the man behind the monster, Gary Oldman.
Dun, Gary Oldman.
Dun, dun.
Yes, I feel that needs a dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. So I will get the disclaimer out the way with, and then we will start with this episode because guess what, kids? I've done my homework this week. She is back to the note reading.
That's what we like to hear.
Oh, thank God for my new laptop. Anyways, everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us on the Facebook page, the Discord, or the comment section, and we can have an open discussion, because what we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong, because we can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behaviour out of nerdism.
And don't be a dick.
As Dan says every week and summarises my disclaimer brilliantly, don't be a dick.
I'm so eloquent, aren't I?
You very much are.
Yes.
So,
one tries.
One tries. So, Gary Oldman, or Gary Leonard Oldman, born in 1958 in London, is one of the most versatile and intense actors that Hollywood has ever seen. I stand by that statement. However, we have crossed oceans and time to bring you the man behind the monster, Gary Oldman.
I see what you did there. I know what you did there. I know what you did there.
Everyone thinks I don't like Dracula, and I don't, but I still got that one in. Gary Oldman. What an absolute thrill it has been to learn more about this man and his characters.
I've stuck to some of the ones that are quite popular but aren't what I would say were his big roles, like obviously Sirius Black in Harry Potter. I shan't be touching on him. For the reason that he does that so well, and she's a TERF and she can go fuck herself. So I don't really want to give
and I didn't. For the same reason, I didn't want to incorporate Sirius Black, because there's in his interesting fact number one, his 105 movies. That is just a pin drop in the brilliance that is his characters. So I thought, do you know what? No, staying away from that. Also, this is a monster episode, and I don't want to touch Harry Potter within monsters.
I also haven't touched Batman because
I have not.
Commissioner Gordon. So
I haven't. For this, I did not. I was kind of looking at the characters that I know, I love, and that did make him monstrous.
Yes.
In saying that, I have not watched Leon.
I watched it last night.
I know you did.
And I am glad I did. I knew I'd seen it a long, long time ago. But I felt like every one of the articles I went on was like, Stansfield's the worst character ever. You know, he's hit top 10 movie villains of all time, and Gary Oldman's portrayal of this guy is just perfect in the land of villains. And I was like, I didn't remember him, and that's an awful thing to say.
Wow.
But I just didn't remember it. And I'm sitting there thinking, I know Natalie Portman's in it, I know John Reno's in it, and I was like, and I know he's a hitman, and I remember bits and pieces, but I didn't remember much more than that. But I mean, bear in mind that film came out in 94. So I was 14 when it came out.
Celia Cabane died.
I was a year older than Natalie Portman was when she filmed it. She's a year younger than me. So she was 13 when it came out. I was 14 when it came out. So yeah. Not that I know her. I make it like I went to school with her. That sounded like I knew her.
I know, like me and Natalie.
Yeah.
Went to primary school together.
Yeah, we played netball,
Netball. Do you know, for a tall person, never got chose for the team?
I was goal shooter. I mean, who puts a midget in the bloody goal shooter?
How?
Great idea.
Me, 5'9", does not get picked for the team. Like, I've always been a tall person. And you're a tiny little tater tot, and you did not get picked.
I got goal shooter was where I stayed for my entire career. Yeah, and I don't know why, because anyone that was goal attack towered over me, and
where is the justice? Where is the justice?
There is.
It's oh my god. I do have a few interesting facts about him just before we kind of get into his characters. He was once famously told by the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts to find a new career.
Yes.
Because this one is not for you. Thank Christ he didn't listen and he went to an acting coach and continued. But what the fuck? They should have a steel plate on their door that said, "We turned away Gary Oldman. Don't listen to us."
Honestly, RADA have done that on more than one occasion. I was the drama kid, though I come from a world of drama. And being a kid that grew up in London, and some of my classmates got like scholarships to Sylvia Young, Stagecoach. They were in all the big theatre. Yeah. They got scholarships to go to these theatre schools. So next stop after that was naturally either bag yourself apart on EastEnders or Hollyoaks, and then you went straight in, or you went straight into RADA or one of those to do the stage shows. So it was always a big thing, but they were always turning away people. And now you find out, like 20, 30 years later, the most successful actors didn't do shit with RADA. So
see, ours was the opposite. I went to drama school. I went to drama school with Charlie Hunnam.
I was going to say Charlie Hunnam, yeah.
But I did not ever meet him. I just know he was part of the school I went to. Ours was not EastEnders or Hollyoaks, your glamorous lot. We got fucking Biker Grove. That's where you started, was Biker Grove, because every single drama school had a connection to it because they would have cast extras. I've been an extra many a times, but I was never seen because it was literally, there was so many people there.
Yeah.
There was so many people. It was like, and I am, for all I may not come across, I am quite shy. And I actually get stage fright quite a bit. So I didn't kind of push myself to the forefront. Yeah. But he did. He got noticed. He went to Biker Grove. And then the next thing I know, he's on Queer as Folk. And I'm like, that's him. That's the guy because Charlie was good.
Yeah.
Like, he was really good and he was talked about, but he was just a, person over there. no, but that was one of my interesting facts about myself at work the other day. I had to write down two facts and a lie. And my two facts were, I went to drama school with Charlie Hunnam, and I have worked with the Royal Shakespeare Company and Scottish Opera, which I have. And my lie was, I went to the I Am Legend premiere. However, it's kind of like, yes, I did not go, but I did bump in shoulders with Will Smith when he was walking a corner to go to the red carpet. I walked somewhere I shouldn't have, shouldered him, and he walked off, and yeah. That was
And that's how the restraining order began. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another interesting fact, he has played, and I didn't know this until I obviously knew one part of it, but not the second. He played Lee Harvey Oswald twice.
I didn't know twice. I knew once, obviously, for the JFK movie. But...
And who was Lee Harvey Oswald? So he does have a look at Lee Harvey Oswald, mind. Like in his younger days.
Yeah, when they put him, like they parted his hair. The accent, he got down to a T and everything as well.
He works with the most. He is so particular on voices that he will get a coach from that country.
Yeah.
And it's going to skip into me Dracula facts, but that is one of them, that he hired someone of Eastern European because he wanted to get that voice so perfect that he eventually was able to drop an octave in his natural voice to be able to achieve that.
Wow.
I know.
Impressive.
He's so impressive. He actually went uncredited for Hannibal because he was denied star billing.
Yes. Now he says a different story, but that is the main story that was put out. But he said it was because he was a man without a face and a name for the beginning, so he felt it was better to be anonymous. But yeah, it's just him bullshitting his way out of the fact that he had a big old hoo-ha with the management, and they said no. But really, looking at it, he had a lot of screen time.
He did, because I watched it all last night because I couldn't watch the film because couldn't find a link. But I went on YouTube and I just watched his bits. I mean, I've seen Hannibal a fucking 1,000 times. I've read the book. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
Very different character. But we'll get into it. Turn down Edward Scissorhands. Could you imagine?
No.
Could you imagine Gary Oldman is Edward Scissorhands? I need to stop myself from saying how me and Anth call him Edward Cisco Hands. So I need to, we got he turned it down, said no, and was very pleased with his decision because he said Johnny Depp absolutely killed it. Looking at how Tim wanted it to, he would never have fit into that world in that as that character.
I watched his interview he did with the British Film Institution.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was either last year or this year the interview was, and he was saying how he doesn't think he's a method actor, so to speak, but everybody that praises him says how method he is, but he refuses. He says, I do not method act. And everybody's like, yeah, well, you hear him, he's always got the accent, or he's working on it, or he'll ignore you on set if you're supposed to be, he's very, they class him all as method. But yeah, he was saying about how he when he's doing a movie, he always turns it down. That's standard. He turns it down straight away. And it's not until he sits back and has time to reflect and think about it, unless obviously we'll go into a few ones where he did not do that. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, he said as a rule, I just turn them down now. If they persist and it stays with me and it's got the right director, it's got the right cast, I'll go, okay, send me the script. And then what he has to do is someone from the pigeon carrying place sits out the front while he reads the script, and then he has to give the script back. So he only gets an hour to read it, maybe. And that's when he makes his decision whether he wants it or not. But he says it takes him a long time to be coerced into taking a part because he can always think of 10 actors that can play that part better.
He's not. When it comes down to, he has an amazing work ethic. That's how I put it. It's just work ethic. Yeah. But also, he wants that project to do well. He's not a greedy person. No. And he wants it to do well. So he is fine to turn around and say, I am not good for that part.
Yes.
He is totally comfortable saying that. And I think that just, to me, is just a sound guy. Like, he's just a very honest person. My next fact is probably the one that blew my fucking mind as a Star Wars fan.
I know what you're going to say.
I never knew this, but Gary Oldman submitted a recorded voice audition for General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
And George Lucas said, I'm going to go with the anonymous audition of Matthew Wood. And I am pleased because Matthew Wood is a really good General Grievous. Like, I am happy with how that turned out. But I had no fucking idea. He just did that off his own back.
Yeah, because he wanted to.
He wasn't asked. He's just like, yes. But could you imagine Gary Oldman with Obi-Wan Kenobi? I can't even remember what Grievous says, and I say it all the time.
Hello there.
Oh no, that's Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. Yeah.
General Grievous is General Kenobi or something like. Oh, people are going to be like coming for us now. You're not a real Star Wars fan. Oh God. I really found that was good.
He actually played he did the voice acting on Call of Duty.
Yes, he did.
He was one of the main characters that was Russian or of Eastern European descent. I can't remember, like Colonel something or other. And he said it took him 4 days to record 40 hours of dialogue. He said I spent 4 days screaming because obviously most of the dialogue is shouting where the gunfire.
Yeah.
So he said he had great fun doing it, but like it's not something he'd probably go back and do again. So
that's a lot. Last one, and I love this. Right, he was considered for the Truman Show.
Oh, right.
Jim Carrey's part, Man on the Moon, which is
really, the Andy Kaufman thing.
Andy Kaufman one, and 2 roles that ended up going to Kurt Russell on both of them: Tango and Cash,
right,
and Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Really?
Yes, was the first pick. And probably
can I see him as Ego? I don't know.
Not only because we know Kurt Russell and he did such an amazing fucking job.
I would get the vibes off of Lost in Space off of him in that, I think.
Oh my God, I totally fucking forgot he was in Lost in Space.
Yeah, he was the creepy old dude that was friends with the little kid that shouldn't have been because it was a bit dubious.
Yeah.
With today's eyes. Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've seen that. Bloody hell, that's like just like shot a memory in my head.
And LeBlanc was in it, wasn't he?
Oh my God, yes. But when you've done 105, that totally makes sense. They were in Friends together.
Yeah.
Fuck my life. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I can kind of understand why you would turn that down. Because I don't think I would have been happy that was going to be Gary Oldman in the MCU, because if I'm going to have Gary Oldman, I want him to be something of a continuous possible villain. I don't know. I haven't really given it much thought, but I just would like to have seen it more substantial than just a one and done.
Yeah.
That Kurt Russell did, which I think because he was perfect for him. Even though I'm sorry to do this, but that is not Peter Quill's father. Just saying. He's called Jason. Never mind. It's a completely different universe, completely different world. It's fine, Sam. It's okay.
Deep breaths.
Anyways,
did you know he wanted to actually? He went to his guidance counselor, careers officer, whatever we're calling them these days, and they said, "What do you want to do? What is your vocation? What do you see yourself doing when you leave school?" He said, "I want to be a cameraman for the BBC." He said, "I got laughed out of that guidance, that like appointment, and they were like, no dude, you need to be like you need to go to work, get yourself a YTS scheme and go and work in the somewhere else,
get in the industry,
woodworking,
get on the building sites,
basically.
Oh my God, I went to one of them, and at the time I was a trombone player, and I just played with the RAF band. They'd come to our school, and obviously the brass band, and I played with them, and I fucking loved it. Like, I loved it so much. These people were fantastic. I loved being around them and listening to them. Like, they traveled the world and this and the other. And I remember going to meet whatever guidance counselor up, and they asked, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, I want to join the RAF. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. So what do you want to do? And I was mentioning the band, and they went, but you need something else. I was going, like what? You went, you can't just be in the band. Like, these people are in the band and then they're in the RAF. They're doing something. And I was like, well, fuck that. I just want to be in the band. I just want to be in the, and they're like, no, you can't. And that was my RAF dreams dashed out the window. When I realized I had no other skill to offer them.
I mean, he's done some naughty things in his life.
He has. He's not the perfect human being.
No, Mr. Oldman got very, very drunk back in 1991, and he was arrested for drunk or DUI in America. When they opened up the car, he got out, and Kiefer Sutherland fell out the passenger seat.
Yes.
So they've been friends for a very, very, very long time, and Kiefer Sutherland actually did vocals with him on Call of Duty as well. So
that's amazing. I did see something of that, but apparently did not write it in my notes. Must have had a psychic link. It's okay.
But apparently
Kiefer
turned around and said to him after they finished recording for the game for Call of Duty, I've not screamed that much since I was married.
Oh God. Oh my God.
I don't know what that says about Kiefer, but you know.
There were so many YouTube videos coming up because if you type Gary Oldman in, brings up all of his interviews, Call of Duty stuff, interviews on Graham Norton, and where he did the round table talk. And I just can't watch it now because I can't stand James Franco's face. But he does. It is interesting. It's just I don't want to listen to what Franco's got to say.
Yeah.
So if I could just push him out, but it then goes into why Gary Oldman's marriage has failed. Drinking was the issue, drugs was the issue, and I'm like, that's not what I came here for.
No,
I came to learn about the actor, not the man who had a past. Yeah, it wasn't great, but he hasn't killed anyone like some people. Matthew Broderick.
But did you know?
Did I know?
Gary Oldman can actually sing. He's featured on 2 of David Bowie's tracks on the album The Sacred Sprawl of Now, I think it's called, in 1985. He sang on 2 tracks with him.
I did not know that. So the more you know.
The Sacred Sprawl of Now. I can't read my own writing, but yeah.
Yeah, we're in for a treat here with mine.
So he's done 2 tracks with David Bowie on that album in 1985. So, you know, he's a bit of a multi-talented
he is
fella.
And as we pointed out last week before we ended the Leatherface episode, his big sister is also Big Mo.
Yes.
Or little sister. Is he the oldest?
He's got a big sister. I don't know if his big sister is her.
Yeah.
Or I don't know how many of them there are. I couldn't find out much about his family though.
No, you don't find. No, there's not a great deal. When you look at personal life, it is literally his marriages and his children. Yeah. But yeah, Big Mo is his sister. And honestly, she's a fucking great actress.
People don't realise she was in Nil by Mouth, his directorial debut. She was in Hellboy, the new David Harbour one.
Was she?
About maybe a minute. She was the person running the chip shop that they had to walk into.
I have not seen it.
He walks into this fish and chip shop, and there's like a lift at the bottom that goes down to their secret bunker thing, right? And she's running the chip shop, and she's all proper Cockney like she is, which is ironic, really, because they're only from Peckham, so she's
quite posh.
Yeah, exactly. Talks. When you find out that they're from New Cross, it's in between Deptford and Peckham. Oh, I think it's Deptford. It's in between. Well, it's definitely near Peckham anyway, and Peckham is only Fools and Horses territory.
Yeah, that's all I know it for.
But it's not proper born under the bow bells, give it the old. If you're a Cockney, you have to be born under the sound of the bow bells. That's the law of being a Cockney. So it's
look at really us Northerners getting a Southern history.
Yeah, like your pearly kings and queens. You can only be a pearly king or a pearly queen if you're born under the sound of the bow bells. So you have to be living in a certain area of capture area. You have to have been born in a hospital in that area. so you're a proper Cockney. So yeah. So anyone who says they're a Cockney, like people who think I'm a Cockney, I'm not. I have a London accent, one of many. And as it goes, it's probably one of the posher ones, which is quite ironic, really. But I'm also, if I spend too much time with family members, I do start to sound a bit fucking nothing and something, and it goes off a bit like that. And like I find myself like proper thinking about things I have to say, and I don't pronounce all my words properly, you know.
Wow.
So my accent can change dependent on who I'm around.
To our northern ears, you do, because you do sound like
I won't do the Essex. To
our northern ears, to be honest, when I get very relaxed and I have in no way any connection to Newcastle, my accent can come across incredibly Geordie. But in no way do I have any connection. It's funny because Carolyn, her accent is very similar to mine, but when she gets to people who she's not seen for a long time, for some reason her voice just goes, "Oh, hello." I stare at it and go, "Fuck you doing?"
I only ever do that with my posh auntie. Like if I speak to my posh auntie, hello.
Oh, it's nice to meet you. Like, who are you? Wait, you're from Horton. Start talking normally.
Brilliant.
Oh gosh. Right. I've wrote villain roles. And when I look at some of them, now they are a bit villainy, but there's one of them that I'm like, he's almost like cartoony character villain.
If that's what I think you're talking about, then yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how you want to play this, but I'll kick off my first one.
Yep.
I have Lee Harvey Oswald from JFK.
Right, I'll let you do the talking on this one because this is one I haven't seen and didn't look at. So you can knock yourself out with that one.
There's not a great deal about the actual because if you look at when you're looking at JFK, it's Costner. Yeah. It's other, it's not a good because he's only in it for a very short period of time. But I thought it was worth mentioning because for me, I adore this film, but only the last 10 minutes.
Right.
This movie is an incredibly complicated, a brilliant, by the way, and true story, brilliant way of how they eventually got some form of retribution for JFK's assassination, some form, but it's a very detailed way of doing it. But the last 10 minutes where Costner, like I'm his fucking friend, Kevin Costner, breaks it down in court, it's like, of course that's what happened. Like, it's so fucking convincing. It was brilliant. There's a few things that I've got written down. His arrest scene. So if you know the story, what happened with Lee Harvey Oswald, he got arrested and was taken through kind of like a back way. He was being interviewed was he being interviewed at that point? But I can't remember if he was being. There was definite cameras there because it's on camera. And Jack Ruby comes up and shoots him, and he did that to stop Jackie Kennedy from facing trial, because it would have gone to trial, it would have gotten grisly. Some things would have come out that.
There's a lot of things about the Kennedys that will come out. Rosemary Kennedy, especially because they put her in an insane asylum. They gave her lobotomies. There's a whole fucking side to the Kennedys that is dark.
Rosemary Kennedy had the last laugh because she outlived them all.
But that story about her is so sad.
She was a promiscuous teen who had mental health issues, and her dad didn't. See, it depends on what you're watching, because it's a dad or it's a mom. Because you don't know which one made the decision. But she ended up having a lobotomy. Yeah, the Kennedy's fucking dark. But so things would have come out in that court, and it politically would have been horrific. Personally, would have been horrific. Yeah. And Jack Ruby put an end to it. But his arrest scene was filmed in the real Texas theater. So it was a theater. Sorry. Yeah. I backtracked a bit because I wasn't sure. Theater where it happened. And the money... This is why I wrote it down. The money that was given to the theatre to use it helped keep the theatre open. because it was on the verge of closing. It was derelict. The production company did it all out to make it look like it did, and the money that they got from allowing them to shoot there was enough to keep them actually in business. And I thought, I wrote that down when I read that, because again, there's not a great deal with regards to Lee Harvey Oswald, the character Gary Oldman played, because it is very central on everything else.
Yeah.
But I thought that was sweet.
Because I did see the snippet of the interview that he does as Oswald, and it's the bit for me that was uncanny, was as he's being walked off, he says, and they beat me, or something to those words, like the police, they beat me. And that face that look he does to the sort of camera, or the reporter standing next to the camera. When you compare that nigh on with the actual original, that is where he got me, because I was like, geez, that is spooky. That it was like every minutiae of the facial expression was just there. He was
so good as Lee Harvey Oswald. And I do recommend watching the movie. Is long.
Yeah,
and you can't sit on your phone on this one. You have to be paying attention. However, if you are not like I was, the last 10 minutes will clear everything up.
Just hang in there. You can do it.
You can do it, but it is worth the watch. Me and Ant came out at the end of that, and we were like, "Why did we wait so many years to watch that? Why did we let the time of that movie put us off?" Because it was brilliant. We can't watch it again, because it is a really long film.
Yeah.
And that part of that, what made it so brilliant, is now being taken away because we've already seen it. But that was the only thing I had on Lee Harvey Oswald, and I just wanted to mention that bit. My next one,
I have a little very grim fact for you, but it's not grim. It's weird. It's a sidebar. Should we call it a sidebar? Tangent. Rob and I own a Lincoln Continental. A Lincoln Continental was what JFK got shot in. So he got shot in 1962. We own a 1966. So yeah, we got a big American car. Huge. A Lincoln Continental. It's 15 feet long. And it is black. Her name is the Black Dahlia. Yeah, her name is the Black Dahlia. So
who are you? You just come out with all these like mystery. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, we've got.
Did you get a hold of one of them?
There's only 5 in the country, and we own one of them. So it was just pure chance. It came across, and Rob said to me, "I'm going to go down and look at it." I was like, "Yeah, okay," because it was always on his bucket list. He always wanted an American car, and he came across. I don't even know where, and he went, "I'm going to go look at it." I was like, "Okay," didn't think much of it. He came back and he went, "I really like it," and I went, "Are you sure?" He went, "Yeah." I went, "Right, okay." He managed to barter the guy down to next to nothing, and we bought it. And we've had it for
parts for that.
Difficult, because we have to get everything imported from the US, but like it's a slow, painstaking thing, but it will be a thing of beauty when it's finished.
Oh my god, that is amazing. We actually have a guy who lives just here who has cars from the 20s, 30s, and 40s
Beautiful.
And 50s. Our cars, like what you would class as like out, but he has them, and you can see him sometimes bringing them out of his garage. He loans them to studios, and obviously takes them to shows and that, but he loans them to anyone who's doing period pieces, and he has a car to cover majority of like each century. I don't know shit about cars, but I love historical cars. To be fucking fair, I love old Fords from the 80s.
Well, technically a Lincoln is a Ford, because it was a side company of Fords, the Lincolns. But yeah, she's a big girl.
I fucking love that. Wow, thank you for sharing that. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
You just get to know just a little bit more about Dan each week, don't you? Look at that, opening up.
Baby.
My next one that I have on my list is, I'm going to say this right, Drexel Spivey.
Mr. Spivey
from True Romance.
I watched that last night after I watched Leon. So
I want to watch True Romance, but nothing to do with any research, because I just fucking adore that film. I used to watch that constantly. I was getting the angel tattoos on us and shit, and Thank Christ I didn't do that. But yes, that was my film back in the day.
I obviously it came out in 94-ish, so or 93. So I would have been 13, 14. So I didn't probably see it until I was like 15, 16.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch it until I was like in my early 20s.
But I think it was one of those films, one and done. I didn't really remember watching it much more than maybe once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ever have it on DVD or VHS or anything like that. But
I did.
I knew of Drexel because every list again, Drexel was one of the top 5 baddies he's ever played or top 5 characters he's ever played. And it wasn't until last night when I watched it and I was so disappointed with the screen time he had.
Yeah, it's not a great deal. For all he is the main antagonist, he is not really in it that much.
Nope.
However, it was his favourite. JFK and this, as of 2011, are his 2 favourite roles he has ever played.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he was written by Quentin, so the use of the language he uses and the way he talks was based on a former roommate that Quentin Tarantino had.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote him actually also into the Pulp Fiction script. He was originally supposed to be in Pulp Fiction, Drexel, the character.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason it got cut before it even got that far. So, but yeah, I would have liked to have seen him again because I think he was fantastic. He just didn't get enough.
No, he doesn't. It's an injustice to him. He never actually read the script for True Romance. This is one of them. Tony Scott said, "You're playing a white guy who thinks he's a black guy and he's a killer pimp."
I mean, that's fair enough.
And Gary Oldman went, "Yeah, okay." Didn't read the script. That was all he got told.
Yeah.
And he did it. I actually have one of his quotes written down because it is one of my favorites. And I'm not going to do the accent. But it says, "Up on that screen is a woman with breastises hanging out. You ain't even bothered to look. You just been clocking me. Now I know I'm pretty, but as not as pretty as a couple of titties."
Yep.
Yep. Love that line.
And then I found Christian Slater to be incredibly annoying in that film. But
you just wanted to punch his face in. Like
the whole time.
There was no fucking way you were gonna go in there and take him on. Like that was literally potluck.
Yeah.
That should never have happened.
Nope.
Stop being a little bitch about things.
Yep. I'm still not even
sure.
I'm still not even sure that the whole thing wasn't just a delusion that he was having, for the sheer reason that he kept seeing Elvis, which was Val Kilmer.
Yes, it was.
In the toilets, but you never saw Val Kilmer's face. He was just put into makeup for 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just wandered behind him in every time he was in a toilet. And I was just like, Elvis is loitering in the bathroom? What is this?
It is a bit strange.
Just a little bit.
What I love about this movie is Brad Pitt. I love Gary Oldman, but Brad Pitt improvised every single line that he did. He wasn't even given lines. He just got told. And it's where he goes, "Don't fucking condescend to me, man. I'll fucking kill you."
Honestly, when you look last night, when it brought up the credits of who's in this movie, I was like, I don't remember any of these people in this film. And then like Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Bloody Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper plays Dad. Mm-hmm.
You had
what's the ginger-haired guy called? He's friend.
Michael Rappaport.
Yeah, Rappaport is, I love him. Great guy.
And then obviously Brad Pitt. And obviously the shortest screen time known to man goes to, in this movie, a whole 22 seconds of screen time, Mr. Samuel L. Jackson. 22 seconds of screen time. He gets shot by Drexel. He comes into the room when Drexel's talking about eating cats, and
oh my god, yes.
He sits down, and then the other guy gets the because he doesn't like eating cats,
and he said that he does.
Yeah,
yes,
and he shoots them both. Drexel shoots both the two guys, Samuel and his mate. 22 seconds he got on that, Samuel L. Jackson.
Wow.
So
I forgot all about him being in that until you mentioned that. Also,
but he gets billing before Gary Oldman
what?
on the credits at the beginning.
He wasn't even that big of a star back then.
Nope.
Wow. Okay. One of the greatest movie fight scenes ever goes to Patricia Arquette and James Gandolfini.
Yes.
What a fucking fight scene that is.
And Tom Sizemore, Chris Penn. How many more people just kept popping up in this freaking movie?
The guy from Frasier who was going to marry Daphne, who played the agent. Can't think of his name.
So many.
So many. That fight scene between them two, especially when she's pissing her sides laughing.
5 days that took to shoot. And on top of the reason why they couldn't show the full extent of that fight was because the censors said it wasn't because of the level of violence or blood.
Mm-hmm.
It was because she was too animalistic.
She did go fucking nuts.
They didn't think that it boded well for the censors didn't like it because she was too animalistic. And that had me sitting back and I thought to myself, no, hang on a minute. It's probably one of the very few fights you see the woman not give a shit. She had
and
very much
go for it.
She very much had that, like the blokes do when they're antagonizing each other. Mm-hmm. She had exactly that dialogue, that sense of
I'm gonna fucking get you.
Ego or whatever you want to call it. She was just very much all along. She took the hits. She didn't complain. She didn't. She
never stopped there and went, "Don't do this. I'm a woman." Yeah. She fucking fought back, and that fucking stab at the end. Oh, I love it.
With the corkscrew in the foot.
Yeah, I love it. But James Gandolfini, I think I remember reading one said he loved doing the scene.
Yeah.
Because Patricia wasn't scared to go all out, but he had to every cut. Are you
okay?
Are you okay? Because he was a very sensitive man. God rest James Gandolfini. Such a sad loss to the industry.
And Tom Sizemore. I mean, he was weird, but yeah. I mean, another one that went. And Chris Penn gone, died of a heart attack just after Reservoir Dogs, didn't he?
That is just. It's still because he's in Reservoir Dogs.
Footloose.
He's in Footloose. He's in. What's the other one, man? What's the other one, man? Come on, Sam. Oh God, what the fuck is Chris Penn in? Is it Taron? Oh my God, my head's just gone to mush. Footloose. Reservoir Dogs. Is that what I've been trying to think of?
So he wears a tracksuit in Reservoir Dogs.
But it was Reservoir Dogs. Wow, my head's just gone really fuzzy. And one of the greatest movies of all time, To Wong Fu. Thanks to the memory, Julie Newbar.
For about this long, yeah.
For about this long, but he's still in it. Yeah, it's really sad about Chris Penn because he almost reminds me a lot of a Chris Farley.
Yeah.
And a John Belushi, kind of exiting this world way too soon, and we're not getting to see the full potential of what it is he could do because he was a good actor. He was a really good actor. He had something. He had some charisma about him, didn't he? Something that his brother is very technical, but I think Chris could fit himself into any role.
Yeah.
And it just would be slightly less effortless than Sean having to really work.
But when you look at Sean and Chris, you see the likeness, but Chris pulled off the grittier. The
dialogue he can pull out was brilliant.
Yeah, even when he was playing dumb, stupid guy that was dating Sarah Jessica Parker in Footloose, he still had that air about him. And then when you see him in Reservoir Dogs and he had the mobster thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you saw him in True Romance, he was a good cop.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm not going to lie, I'd rather have seen Chris's career go on than Sean's. I'm not saying Sean should have died. I'm just saying.
No, because there's a few things that Sean Penn has done which have been an absolute masterpiece. Milk being one of them. We'll be forever grateful that man did that film because he did it fucking justice. But yeah, it's just really sad that the likes of Chris Penn and that we'll never know. Because, and I think I personally think he would have gone to be a Tarantino actor because he was so good at delivering his dialogue and he was a fast talker and Quentin is a fast writer. So I think they would have worked brilliant together. I don't have any more on Drexel.
Yeah.
The look is all him, by the way. That
Yeah.
is one thing that is all him. And to be honest, for all that he had Quentin's words, the accent, the characteristics, they all come from Gary Oldman. That's not Quentin telling him, like in writing, telling him what it is he's expecting.
Yeah.
That's Gary Oldman taking what he's been given and worked with it.
Did you know though? He's supposed to be blind in one eye, isn't he, Drexel?
Yeah, because he's got the very light blue eye.
That was a prosthetic eye, like contact that was taken from the set of Dracula. So he actually wore it, or someone wore it in Dracula,
but
and he
was
repurposed it. That's true. But he repurposed it for Drexel because he wanted to give him that anything
so cool.
goes thing.
Yeah.
That kind of.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Because it's such an iconic look. Like for us anyway, I don't think True Romance is something outside of pop culture. Like if I went to work tomorrow with my training group and went seeing True Romance, I can guarantee the likelihood is they wouldn't have heard of it. But that's just because it falls under such a category. Like I don't know, it was a hard one for me to find.
Yeah, it's an old one. I feel like
it just fell on us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's not technically a Tarantino movie because he didn't direct it, but it's a Tarantino movie because it paid for Reservoir Dogs.
It did, and it's a Tony Scott movie.
Yeah,
who is a local lad to moi.
And he's sadly gone as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was Ridley Scott's brother, wasn't he? And Tony decided to go for a swim, didn't he? Off a bridge. Yeah.
He did. A very, very tall bridge.
Yeah.
Sad.
Very. Yeah,
because another great talent gone. Yeah. I don't have any more on Drexel.
Nope.
And I have very little on the next one, which is Zorg.
My favourite.
From The Fifth Element.
He's up there. I have to say, on my character, I'll go to at the end. I'll tell you the list of where they sit on my Gary Oldman performances. But Zorg is he's an anomaly in Gary's movie history when you look at him.
He is. He's so cartoonish. But the best part, this is one of my thingies, he played him between then president candidate Ross Perot and Bugs Bunny.
Yes.
That was his inspiration. So we get the Bugs Bunny side. Now I know who the other side is. It's like, oh, okay, there were some choices. But it's so cartoonish, this character.
He owed Luc Besson a massive favour. He'd already done Leon with Luke at that time. And he was doing Neil by Mouth. And Luke partly financed and produced the movie Neil by Mouth for him.
Oh, I did not know that.
So yeah, he's got a producer credit, but he actually partly financed the movie for him to get it made. So Gary was like, no questions asked, next movie, I'll do it. I don't care what it is, I'll do it. Say thank you. And it just so happened to be The Fifth Element. So Gary had no idea.
He made a good choice.
But to this day, it's not a film that he enjoys.
Really? Is it because of the prosthetics, maybe? No?
I think, no. He said it was more to do with the fact that it was very chaotic because it was like a third sci-fi, a complete modelling kind of like John Paul Gaultier collection.
Extravaganza.
Yeah. And then the last of it was like a big budget Michael Bay film because there was all the explosions and the action movie and the that side of it. So he said,
it kind of like is all over the place. Like for me, I love it, and it is a lot of people's favorites.
Yeah,
but as a whole, you kind of don't know where to fit it.
It's very disjointed.
Yeah, but for us, it works.
Yeah, I mean, he said this is one of my favorite facts. He said that there's a scene where he's got the big guns and he's got, I think are they called the Mandalores or something like that? It's something the Mangalores.
Mangalores. I couldn't pronounce it when I was reading it last night. So I was like, I'm going to leave that word out.
Yeah, so he's got them and he's showing them the guns, and he's going through the process with them, and obviously they screw him over, so he screws them over.
Mhm.
And as him and Tricky are walking away, the big explosion happens.
Yeah.
Now, what happened was the plastic cap that he wears, a Zorg with the hair coming out the top, melted to his head, and because of the heat from the explosion. Now, he knew that explosion was coming, but they didn't tell Tricky, who sat behind him. So you see Gary centered, not even phased by the explosion, and the fact that he has a bit of plastic melting to his head. Tricky behind him absolutely bricks it, jumps as high as a thing. Like, you can see he's having some sort of episode. And he said when they shouted cut, Tricky turned around and went, "I've actually shit my pants. I actually shit myself." And like Gary says to this day, he swears to God that's the conversation they had, that Tricky shit himself during that scene. So, and that's coming out of Gary's mouth on one of the many interviews I saw. So
that is it's kind of funny, but almost like I probably would have done exactly the same thing.
They had a weird idea because they wanted to make Tricky's character really pathetic.
Yeah.
Like a yes sir, no sir. And you kind of establish it to that point, but to not tell him about the explosion also made it like he wasn't used to being around that kind of
environment.
Yeah. Whereas
that's
obviously
Gary Oldman is just yeah. Gary Oldman's just a fucking pro. Every scene with Gary Oldman in will have some form of circular motion within the scenery. Every scene that has Bruce Willis in is all rectangles.
Yeah, I thought that was
that is very fucking detail.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Luc Besson. He's very, very analytical. Now, as a person, I don't want to go into it because I heard there's rumours that there's not good. Shall we say he likes people of a younger age? I think the rumours were.
Are we talking Jerry Lee Lewis, Woody Allen kind of thing?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
He's in that ballpark, should we say? And it is.
Wow.
I'm going to say allegedly, but it is out there.
We will always say allegedly.
So,
just in case.
Look hard enough, and allegedly you will find the alleged stories. But yeah, I mean, as a man, he's a horrible person, from what I can gather in that respect. But other than that, his work as a director, he is visually stunning. In any of the movies you ever watch Luke do, his stuff is absolutely.
The Fifth Element is beautiful. The aesthetic of it, the colours of it, the costume. I mean, Jean-Paul Gaultier did such a fucking phenomenal job. He was actually on hand on set and went through every single costume. Nobody went onto set without him checking it over first. He's such a perfectionist, but because of that perfection, it fucking pays off. I did read a few things because obviously when I'm reading through stuff, a lot of it is Bruce Willis. Yeah. Like, this is a Bruce Willis film. There's a lot to do with him in, and I did find one bit interesting. The opera singer, the alien opera singer who sings an absolutely beautiful song. Him watching that, what we see is the first time Bruce Willis ever sees her, and he is her, and the reaction you're getting is genuine. That is his prop, and I love learning about moments like that. It's been a few times where we've had that's their initial genuine reaction, and I think that it was beautiful. That scene is so beautiful.
Luke was actually dating her at the time.
Really?
Yeah, the opera queen. And I dropped my pen.
Pick your pen up.
Yeah, I've got it now. The opera song that's performed in that as well is virtually impossible to sing.
It's a handful of people who can do it.
Yeah, it's the note slides from the register of, we're talking whistle tones, Mariah Carey, down to bass tones. You can't slide that quickly. So it is a very, very select few amount of people who can pull that song off. So if you search YouTube, you'll find a few people that can do it.
Yeah, I'm sure someone did it on The Voice, but it wasn't in the UK. It was abroad. Yeah. And wow.
I watched The Charismatic Voice. She's a vocal coach, and she basically breaks down YouTubers, and she's got very into metal. She's an opera singer, but she's got very into metal at the moment, and she dissects a lot of those. But she actually did dissect one of the people singing the operatic part, and she found out just through watching that it was the person that was claiming to be able to sing it had synthesized. The voice had been synthesized and vocoded, and she could hear it straight away because she studied opera. She knew her notes. So there's people pretending they can do it, but it's been manipulated.
My God, yeah.
So there are people out there. She said you can do it, but it takes time. It takes effort.
Wow.
Practice. So anybody that hasn't been manipulated is genuinely singing it, and I take my hat off to them because that is a hell of a song.
I tip my hat. Yeah. I actually have no other more on Zorg because there's not a great deal if you go and read about. I try to look into the costume side of it.
Yeah.
It just talks about Mila Jovovich? Is it Mila Jovovich?
Mila Jovovich.
It talks about her costumes.
Yeah.
Not a great deal about his. Not anything about his makeup. Yeah, not a great deal.
No, it was a choice that he said that he had to give off. And now these are his words, not mine. He had to give off a certain type of Hitler vibe with the soul patch.
I get that.
But he moved it from here to here for the less, the
obvious.
I think it wasn't here, was it? It was there, or was it there?
It was there. Yeah, because it's like a diamond, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah,
it's the only diamond shape on him because everything else is circular.
Yeah, so he said he wanted to give off that authority Hitler vibe, but then show that he was actually a doofus that didn't have a clue what he was doing 99% of the time. So when he choked on the cherry pip, and obviously Ian Holm's the one that comes around, and old Bilbo gives him a good old backslap,
Bilbo.
Yeah, so I mean, I've always enjoyed that movie, but I do like Zorg because he is that quintessential rubbish villain that you just know you're gonna die because you're not gonna
win this. You're not gonna win, but we're gonna stick around and watch you.
Yeah,
because he makes that movie. I mean, Chris Tucker for me was was a standout. Yeah, it was a standout for his costumes alone. Yeah. That man can wear a catsuit like I don't know. Like I can't pull that off. Like wowza. My next one is a biggie. It's not the biggie, but it's not. It is a biggie. Right, deep breaths. It is Mason Verger from Hannibal. Deep breaths, because this is a fucking hard one. This is one of probably my favorite characters he has ever played, of probably one of the most worst human beings that has ever graced literature. Yeah, he is not a great person. I don't know I'm not going to talk about the TV series of Mason because I know that they do a lot more in the book. Obviously his sister's involved in that, but I have not seen it, so I'm not going to be referencing that. I am simply sticking to movie Mason Verger with Gary Oldman because he is our subject of today.
Yes, 2001.
2001. I remember being in Florida. I'm a huge Thomas Harris fan, by the way. I have read the book. Red Dragon is one of my favorite books of all time. And I remember being in Florida and seeing in Universal Studios, I can still fucking picture it, Jaws ride, and you've got some toilets not so far away from it, and in them toilets on the main wall is fucking Hannibal poster, and I nearly cried. And that made my day. I remember when that came out. Mason Verger is a dick, by the way.
He is the most despicable person, but it fits the narrative with regards to why he would have known Hannibal Lecter in the first place, doesn't it? So
having Hannibal Lecter and Mason Verger in one room, and Mason Verger is the bigger arsehole, there's something fucking wrong.
I will say, God, this is going to make me sound like an absolute crazy person. With Lecter, I can empathise with his thought process
to a degree. Yeah.
Because with Mason, he wanted to see how far he could push the situation, because he didn't care for what he did. And as we know with Hannibal, at the end of Hannibal, when he's doing the Ray Liotta thing, he has an issue with inappropriate behavior, and that it came out in that the dinner scene very much so, how he doesn't like people being rude or inappropriate or things like that. So he has
having imperfections in this world.
Yes, he has a set of morals that a code that he lives by. Does Hannibal?
He does. I have never watched or read Hannibal Rising, because I know Thomas Harris was under pressure from studios to. Basically, he was told by a studio, we have the rights to Hannibal Rising. If you don't produce a script or produce their book, we will find someone who will do it for you. And he was under pressure to write it, so I have no interest. I think in a few years' time, we will have an edited version of that book. I hope to God it happens, because I don't think that's the plan he had originally. I think he was just very pushed. There is also this, because it's a movies, there's some changes. It doesn't necessarily go into Hannibal about his imperfections and how he wants to make the world a better place, because with the scene with Ray Liotta, he doesn't like that he's rude. Ray Liotta is a dickhead, but he has not done anything to the world that I remember.
From what I could gather, he was a dirty, I want to say he was a congressman, or he was something along those lines. You know, they have
right,
governors.
Then that makes sense. That totally blows my thing out the water then, because that makes sense.
Slightly, I think he was crooked. I don't know. I can't really remember that bit in the movie, because I get so taken aback with the scene and the special effects. And I just literally, before I came up to record, I found a video that's 15 minutes long that showed how they did the special effects for that scene, but I will save that for another day. But that was absolutely, it was just unlike anything you've ever seen, the special effects for that.
The guy who done said special effects is Greg Cannon, who I will talk about in a bit, because he did the other big movie too. Phenomenal fucking guy. Like, the work is unreal. But yes, he did Mason Verger. He did The Head. But I don't see, this is what I wanted to watch Hannibal last night, because I genuinely couldn't remember if they've talked about Mason's past.
Yes.
And how he is as rich as he is. Did they bring that up?
No, I don't think they ever addressed his wealth, other than
he was a rich man.
He was already rich, and that's how he lured the children in.
That's the part I wasn't too sure if they brought up, because he is a piece of shit.
He's one of those files. Yeah. Isn't he? He's one of those files.
He's one of those files, and he got away with it because his family is rich and knew Congress people, and he got away with it. But what he didn't get away with was seeing an appointed psychiatrist.
Correct.
And that appointed psychiatrist just so happened to be a walking, talking cannibal.
Yes. Yes, an ethical cannibal at that. But
honestly, this, when you put these two up against each other, Lecter looks all right.
Yeah.
He's all right, because Mason is the fucking worst. But yeah, he gets put up against the scene with how he did it. That is pretty accurate to the book.
Now that scene, I dislike that scene for the sheer reason that they use that whooshy, grainy.
If you're going to do it, just fucking show it. But if you're not,
that's the thing. You don't really ever, even with the whooshy camera stuff, you don't actually see him do it. But you see him hanging from his whatever it is he's hanging from, and you see
that's one of his methods, by the way. That's not one of Lecter's.
Yeah,
the erotic asphyxiation.
Yeah, because he has him. Hannibal says to him, "Show me how you do it," or something like that, isn't it?
Because that's one of his fixtures. That's not Lecter. Lecter is, give me your parts.
Yeah,
cut your face off. Fucking do it.
Yeah.
I get very uncomfortable when I talk about Mason, because he is just a He's a fucking piece of shit. That face makes me very uncomfortable. To this day, still cannot see Gary Oldman in that suit, in that makeup.
Yeah.
And guess who else couldn't either? The whole cast.
Yeah.
Do you know who they thought it was? Jared Leto.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
They were not convinced that was Gary Oldman and said, is Jared Leto in that, underneath that mask, underneath that makeup?
Yeah.
Because he was so fucking good. The only difference, they're very true to the book, with Mason in here. The only difference is the death scene. It's not his butler, his, very
Cordell.
Cordell. It's not Cordell. It is his sister who does it.
Yeah.
Because his sister is one of his victims. Which I think goes into the Hannibal TV series.
It is in the TV series, yeah. But the thing about Mason's story is that Hannibal gives him poppers and then convinces him or coerces him into showing him how... I can't even remember that little bit of snippet of where he tells him to cut his own face off. But
he says it, though.
Oh, is that what... Because that's the bit that's unclear. And then you just see Hannibal feeding the dogs his face.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well.
Yeah, he says, because I tried to watch Hannibal last night, but I could not get a link to fucking work. So I just ended up going up on YouTube and watching the scenes with Mason in it. Yeah. And he says, show me how you cut your own face.
That's it, yeah. But then, and you see him handling the thing. But he was actually, when Greg Cannon saw it was going to be him, he knew that whatever prosthetics he put on Gary would take it. He was like, I know Gary's going to do whatever. But they went through 15 different sculptors to make the mask, and every one of the sculptors come back with some sort of zombie looking thing with skull poking out, and like Ridley just sat there on... Was it Ridley or Tony? Ridley, wasn't it?
Ridley.
Yeah. Ridley was like, no, it's too zombie. Don't like it. It's not what I want. And they went away for ages and they kept looking and they couldn't work it out how to get that look. So Ridley Scott took a picture from one of those, like Tom Savini, as we have talked about in one of our previous episodes. Tom has a reference book he has in his library, and it has everything from car crashes to deformities to broken legs and arms and wounds and all sorts in it. But he had a book like that, a medical book, where he found a deformed fetus, and he showed Greg Cameron this picture and said, I want this but not this. And he was like, right, we know where we are now. So they made one sculpt and it was still a bit too off and they needed to make tweaks and things like that. And then they got the second sculpt right. Gary walked in and he went, see that? The prosthetics, is there any way you can glue my eye open? So the one eye that looks really like in Mason is glued open. Gary's eye is glued open. He didn't, he hardly blinks in that eye for the whole fucking scenes he's in. So,
my skin has actually gone like cold. Like my insides have gone cold. I didn't realize Mason was going to I did know Mason was going to affect as much as he did. But normally it's the other way around. When I'm talking about Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, my skin and my bones can go cold from that too. Mason is the fucking worse than Dracula.
Do you know where that voice comes from?
Oh,
Thomas Harris himself has that voice.
That's Mason's voice.
Gary heard Thomas walk past him, and Gary said, I have this thing. If I hear a voice or if I see a gait or a way of someone's walk or how they stand, I put it in my bank, in my memory, and I go, right, keep that because you might need it. And so Thomas Harris walked past and he had a very nasally kind of, that way that Mason Verger talks. It's very high.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it now.
Like a 1920s reporter,
Yeah, it's almost like, better go to the talkies. Hollywood.
He's very much like that. And he heard Thomas talk and he went,
That's it.
That's Mason. So yeah.
So we will get back to Mason at some point.
Yes.
Because we have other ventures into that world. One last fact before we get into the big one.
Can I do a different one before we get to the big one?
Absolutely.
But yes, you do your fact.
Christopher Reeves was offered to play Mason Verger, and he said, absolutely fucking not. That is a true story.
Was he in the wheelchair at that point, though?
Yes, he was.
Oh, that's some sick shit, isn't it?
Yes. Mason, the one characteristic they got wrong about Mason in the movie is that he's on a ventilator constantly, can't breathe without it.
Yeah.
Would have had that with Christopher Reeves because he
breathe through the that's distasteful, I have to say.
Christopher Reeves didn't actually see it that way because he is a paraplegic character and he is a paraplegic actor, so he didn't look at it in that way. To him, that was representation until he learned about Mason and went, fuck no.
That's what I mean. I'm not talking about the fact that he was in a wheelchair or anything like that. I mean, it is great for people who are have certain disabilities and things like that to feel represented, but Mason's not the kind of character you want to play to be that person to represent.
100% no. And that is why he bowed out of it. I knew where you were going. I just wanted the lead up.
Yeah.
Shall
I tell you a little sidebar, another little tangent about my life?
Go on then.
Christopher Reeve was nearly my dad.
How the fuck did you come back from that one?
In the 80s, my mum worked in a place called the Trust House 40 at Heathrow Airport. She was a cocktail waitress. And they had all the stars staying in this hotel whenever, like, they come in, come out. And he'd filmed the first and second film, Superman. And he was in the bar and he came in a couple of nights in a row because they were filming at Pinewood. And he came into the bar a couple of times and my mum sort of thought he looked familiar, but she didn't twig it was him. He had big red glasses on, so I mean, he was in disguise. He was Clark Kent at the time, but like she just didn't twig. And he asked her on a date, and then he asked her to marry him. Bearing in mind she had me and my sister at that point, so he technically would have been my stepdad.
He would have been your oh my god, Superman could have been your stepdad.
But she turned him down because she was married to my dad, who coincidentally she divorced anyway. So, I mean, mother, come on now. I hold that against her. I genuinely hold the one thing I hold against my mother is the fact she turned down Christopher Reeve.
I'm again speechless. Don't know. My God, Dan, you are such a fucking dark horse.
It's an honest to God, hand on heart, true fact. That is true.
Wow. So, we need one of these every episode now, a Dan fact. Get to know Dan. Each week she will give you a fucking unreal, amazing fact about herself.
It's like, that's my, I mean, I'm just devastated that she said no.
Oh,
devastated.
Could you not? What was the one you wanted to cover before we do the big one?
I would love to do Leon just quickly.
Yeah, go for it, because I've not seen it.
Stansfield himself, Norman Stansfield, the guy he plays, is probably the benchmark of crooked cops and psychopath and equal parts everything wrong with an addict. He's like this mixing bowl of crazy.
Yeah.
The gist of the movie Leon is there's a guy who lives in an apartment building, and in the apartment next to him there's a family, 3 kids. Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors is the mum, and
Ellen Green.
Yes, and then there's the dad. And gist of it is that the dad was holding some cocaine for Stansfield. He was cutting it for him or something. And when they got the cocaine back, it wasn't as pure as they liked. So he came back and shot the entire place up, killing the mum, the dad, the big sister, and the 4-year-old brother. Now, Natalie Portman was at the shop at the time, but she should have technically been there. And she then knocked on Leon's door, pretending she was trying to get in there rather than go straight in. She's a very clever kid in this. And he lets her in. And anyway, he becomes her mentor, and she wants to learn how to become a hitman, and that's how it goes along. Because she wants to avenge her little brother's death, because she didn't give a fuck about the rest of her family. It was just her 4-year-old little brother. And so she said of all the scenes she ever did, she's never had to act in this one scene where she somehow manages to get into the DEA building, and Stansfield comes into the toilets, and he is like towering over Natalie Portman, and he's like touching her hair, but not in like a file way.
Yeah.
He's doing it in the sense of that it's just a sensory thing for him, because he has this thing where he takes a tablet just before he's about to do something vile. And these tablets, they the general consensus is it's like a benzodiazepine, where when I looked into it, they have like they can give you like temporary amnesia, they relax you, they can put you in these weird states, they make you go weird. But he had this thing, Gary, where when he took it, he did this whole thing where he contorted his entire body, and he's shaking, and he's like he did this weird face, and it just gives you the heebie-jeebies, because you're just like, he knows what he's going to do with the intent of when he put that in his mouth. And it's very, he plays that so well. Just the sheer.
I've heard so many good things, but it's just one of those movies that just like completely passes by, and it's not like I'm going to go, do you know what? I fancy watching Leon tonight.
Because it's a Luc Besson movie, it does have undertones of creepy grossness, I will say, because Natalie Portman does fall in love with Leon and tells him on many of occasions that she's in love with him. Her being 12, 13 in the movie, and him being a grown adult, it is very uncomfortable, those scenes. So I wasn't kind of in it for that.
You were just there for Gary Oldman.
I was. Although Jean Reno does an absolutely fantastic job at what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Gary, just the level of crazy he brings to that movie, it wouldn't be the same if someone else played him. I just don't think he has this tendency, Gary, to check out. Like, you can look at his face and you know it's Gary Oldman, but the eyes,
they're not just there.
No, there's something he does, and I don't know how he has this ability, but he can just switch off.
No, but it's part of this list, and honestly, I could. There's a lot of movies that I could have gone into that had nothing to do with the kind of a villainous side.
Yeah,
The Darkest Hour.
Yeah,
you do not see that fucking man at all in that movie.
I've seen snippets, but not seen it.
Oh God, there's a scene where he's on the. It's just before he's asked by the government to surrender to Germany.
Yeah.
And he gets on it. I don't know how historically accurate this is. I don't give a shit. I love this scene. He gets on a train and he asks the people, what do I do? This is what I'm being told. What do I do? What do you want? I'm being told you all want to surrender. You want to be taken over by Germany. What is it that you want? And they all went, we want to fucking fight.
Yeah.
And he gives them like this massive pep talk that then leads into that fucking incredibly famous thing where he said, we will not be taken over by Germany. And oh my God, for a minute, for a second, I can't see him anymore because of how fucking brilliant he is playing this. Yeah. And I know it's a completely different, in a villain, you can completely lose somebody because of their sheer evilness, and it's hard to comprehend that is that person. But even when he is doing it in a non-evil sense, he can make you completely be lost in his acting ability.
Yeah,
there's very few people who can do that.
I would say you don't see Oldman. There's this one scene, I did have one of the little snippets I saw of The Darkest Hour where he's on the phone to Roosevelt, which I think was Jim Broadbent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he's on the phone to him and he's saying, we need those destroyers, if we can just have 40 or 50. And he says, no, we can't do that. And he's like, well, what about all those planes we just bought off of you? Can we pick them up? And he's like, no, we can't do that. And he's like, we could, if you had a team of horses, you could come and get them and tow them over the line because it's not motorized. And it was just the look on his face where he puts the phone down onto the side, puts his cigar in his mouth, and you just go, that's Churchill. That's not Gary.
That's not Gary Oldman. That's not Gary Oldman. As fucking Churchill.
Fucking Will. It just the ability of the makeup teamed with the acting, teamed with the obviously the director and the script, and everything just fell for him in that movie, I would say.
When makeup can be such a great tool. Anthony Hopkins played Alfred Hitchcock in Hitchcock. Yeah. The makeup is what helps because it gives the jowly, the accent help from it. But essentially, you are looking at Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
When you are looking at him in The Darkest Hour, makeup aside, that is not Gary Oldman in there.
No, 100%
it's so crazy to like explain it, but it's so different how the acting. I mean, don't get us wrong, I love that Hitchcock movie, with Anthony Hopkins, but there's just something so different with a full-on prosthetic. Because remember, if I remember rightly, Hitchcock only has from like here downwards
the chub and the
and the eyes are everything, and the hair, that's all Anthony Hopkins. But when it's full on, it just encompasses and obviously like really takes over everything. I do love The Darkest Hour. I've only ever seen it once, so technically I've not seen it at all, but I would definitely watch it again just to watch an acting class.
Well, just a special mention as well for Sid and Nancy.
Oh obviously. Yeah, Sid and Nancy. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I paid a ridiculous amount of money to own this on DVD because it was very hard to come by. I fell in love with Gary Oldman through this movie. This is my gateway into Gary Oldman. I have known this. This movie came out in 1986. It's directed by Alex Cox. I have known this since I can remember.
Yeah.
I have such an stupid infatuation with the actual real life Sid and Nancy. I can't explain it. I don't know why I have it, but I know every conspiracy theory. I have my own thoughts on it, on how I think it happened. I know he hated playing this character.
Yep.
He absolutely hated it. But
the wage of paying the character was $35,000 and he couldn't turn it down.
Exactly. He needed the dollar. He needed the money. The necklace he wore was actually Sid's. John Lydon hates this film.
He really does. But then if you ask any of the other guys, they go, yeah, maybe.
The thing is, though, he says it's fictional. John Lydon says this is a work of fiction. But what I find very funny, if you watched the Sex Pistols program that they did on Disney Plus, from the perspective of Steve Jones, which I fucking loved, because Steve Jones, that is the person you want to be known about. Because Steve Jones is a fucking character. He stole Bowie's instruments. Like he is behind Sex Pistols completely. Like everyone puts it down to what's his face? Can't buy the man. Vivienne Westwood's partner. What was his name? Malcolm McDowell. Malcolm McDowell.
Malcolm. It wasn't McDowell.
Oh, that's an actor.
Malcolm. It was Malcolm anyway.
Yes,
I don't know.
Can't think of his name because my brain is just not functioning today. But everyone puts it down to him. It's Steve Jones.
Yeah,
and Steve Jones is such a nice guy. He is a conspiracy theorist nut. But he's so lovely. He's very open to the world. He has been a very isolated man, living in London, living in poverty. So he is very open to new experiences. And in the program, from his point of view, plays out Sid and Nancy exactly the same way as how it did in that fucking movie. So how is it fictional? I don't get it.
I only have one fact about that movie, really, which doesn't include Gary. But when they were originally casting for Nancy, Courtney Love was up for the part of Nancy, and they said, no, she's got no experience, we don't want her. And I was like, that probably was a wise thing to do. I'm not going to lie, but she wouldn't have been Nancy.
No, she was definitely, when Chloe Webb turns around and says Sid was really shining out, she sounds fucking exactly like her. There is very few footage of Sid and Nancy together, available. But there is one, the interview where he's off his face and he keeps falling asleep and she keeps waking him up, and then he spills an ashtray on her and she goes fucking light. that is available to watch on YouTube, and there's certain parts in that Chloe Webb is obviously taken as reference for, and the way she said the Sid, and she's fucking perfect.
I know he was hospitalized after that though, because
he lost so much weight.
He went on a diet of fish and something else, and to look like a heroin drug addict.
Yeah, he was incredibly malnutritioned. Had to be put on IV drips to try and
at
least get him back to.
So ill playing that part.
Yeah,
so
for all he didn't want to do it, he did it justice. I could talk a fucking yarn on Sid and Nancy, but I want to get into the next one.
Yeah, let's get into it.
However, I have just thought I don't want to get into it in a great big scale of Dracula, because we are going to be doing Dracula at some point.
Correct.
So I am going to take out some of my notes that accompany the movie so I can include them in that one.
I'm just gonna look at what
I don't know. I was just thinking to myself earlier, I was like, we're doing Dracula, we're doing the character Dracula, and this is the character Dracula, even though it is Gary Oldman's Dracula. Okay, I've said this before and I will say it again. I don't like this movie. It is not one of my favorites, but also Dracula is not one of my favorite characters. So that will not help. However, I do appreciate the movie. One thing that I'm not taking out, because I wrote this in bold capital letters about Keanu Reeves.
Oh, his accent.
Keanu Reeves blamed the accent on exhaustion.
No, you just can't do a British accent, Keanu. Which is ironic because his mother is British.
Why couldn't you just own it and say, yeah, that was a choice? Or why didn't Francis Ford Coppola turn around and go, do you know what, Keanu? In my headphones, this just sounds shit. Why don't we just keep you as an American? We just keep the American accent. You know, Kevin Costner did it in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Okay.
Well, there was only one Brit on the. Oh no, there was two. There was Sadie, and there
Anthony
was
Hopkins.
Oh God, three. Well, yeah.
Oh, well, he's Welsh.
But yeah, there was Gary, and there was Sadie, and Anthony. And not one of those could give him diction lessons.
Yeah, I know. Don't blame it on exhaustion, Keanu. Do you know what I really think? And I was thinking about this last night. Maybe the part for Keanu was intended for Nicolas Cage.
Oh, there's not enough like forward rolls and stuff.
It's his nephew. So I was thinking maybe, and Keanu didn't want to keep the American accent because he would have sounded too much like Nick Cage. So he was like, I'll change it up a bit and try this really shitty version of an English accent.
I mean, the thing for me was finding out the little tiny details, like, when Keanu's shaving and Dracula licks the blade.
Yeah.
Gary was pissed as a fucking bastard during that scene. He got so drunk because they wanted that look of ecstasy on his face. And Gary said the only way he knew to do that was to just get really drunk and let go. Yeah. So he got really drunk, and that look of euphoria when he's drinking the blood off of the knife is because Gary was pissed.
Wow. I'm actually not going to take out my notes. I'm going to read them out. So the laws of physics work differently whenever Dracula is around. So Francis Ford Coppola wanted to make sure that this movie was supernatural, and you knew it was supernatural.
Yeah.
And he couldn't quite figure that out in any other way than when Dracula was in a room, only when he was in a room, the laws of physics changed. So he could walk on the ceiling.
Yeah.
That's the kind of, and I kind of got it when I was thinking about it, because again, I did try and watch this last night and my fucking links weren't working, because I wanted to give it a chance. Like, I have shit all over this film every time I've seen it. I have either fallen asleep or I have been too bored with it, or then I realized Sadie what's-her-face is in it, and I'm like, oh my god, it's her.
She was married to Jude Law, wasn't she?
She was. That was the one he cheated on with the nanny. He had a nanny moment too.
A Gavin Rossdale moment, yeah.
He did.
Liam Neeson was originally up for Van Helsing, but they went with Anthony Hopkins.
Irishman and a Welshman.
I mean, Liam Neeson keeps cropping up, doesn't he? He crops up
He's
as
another
being
one.
Leatherface, wasn't he? He was offered Leatherface. We were talking about him last week. Was it Leatherface? I'm sure he was offered.
I can't remember now.
I think he was. I think it was. Oh no, Dracula in the Monster Squad, wasn't it?
That's it.
Yes, he was offered Dracula in the Monster Squad, and he was also offered. Well, he went up for Van Helsing, but I have to say, out of the two, Hopkins.
Oh,
chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss massively. He only took the part for one line and one line only, and I've said it already tonight, which was, "I've crossed oceans and time to find you." And when he read that line, he was like, "Yes, I'll do this movie."
I just want to know what it's like to say it. Yeah, I mean, Steve Buscemi was actually asked to be, or Buscemi, depending on how you say it, was up for Renfield. He was supposed to be Renfield instead of Tom Waits.
Fucking worked.
Tom Waits did a bloody good job, though. He played Crazy Dude really, really well.
Yeah, he did really well. He will never beat the guy from Dracula Dead and Loving It who's in Ally McBeal. Sorry and all.
And Ghostbusters 2.
Yes, Janosch.
But apparently Francis Ford Coppola sent, or Coppola, depending again how you say it.
I say Coppola. I say it as I see it.
He sent Gary a coffin as a present.
Where's my coffin, Francis?
I have a coffin in my.
I know you do.
In my dining room, but he sent a coffin to him, and Gary thought he wanted him to have sex in it, so he was like, "I've got the coffin. What am I supposed to do with it?" And he was like, "Whatever you want, Gary. Whatever you want." And he was like, he felt like he was insinuating that he needed to experience that, and Gary was like, "No, I'll sleep in it, but that's about as far as I'm going to take it." And so he ended up.
You're thinking to yourself, going, "This man made The Godfather."
But what he did was he used to use it as a party piece. So when all the girls come round, when he was having hard parties and stuff, he'd open his garage, and the garage door would go up, and then a light would come on and illuminate the big coffin that Francis
Get in my
bought.
coffin, girls.
He said the women used to scream and run away. It didn't have the effect I thought it would on them, but
look at my coffin. For his emotional scenes, so for all he did his drunk scene to get that euphoric look, for his emotional scenes, he had a photograph of his son strapped to his hand. And he would, because he missed him so much, because his son was really young, he would just
Alfie, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, Alfie's just glance at his hand and get it. That was for only two would get emotional. Makeup artist Greg Cannon.
Yeah.
I really think we could do an episode on this guy, given his credits. Hannibal.
Yeah.
The Passion of the Christ.
Oh, Jesus. Hey, pun intended. Yeah.
Bear with us because I've wrote one down that's all in letters to remember what it is, and I can't remember what it is. I'll come back to that. That's really going to annoy us. Is that Bicentennial Man?
Robin Williams.
Fuck me. I have wrote it. A TCC or BB. TCC or BB. What the fuck is that, Sam? I wrote it out because it's clearly too long, and now I have no idea what it is. Okay, we'll have to leave that as a mystery. He actually won Best Oscar for the makeup for Dracula, which is obviously something that could not go amiss, even down to from obviously it's very quite basic makeup when you look at if you've ever watched or seen the photographs of Gary Oldman in makeup, because it is bald cap and a few prosthetics, but a lot of his facial features are left to him to be able to. It's not like Karloff where he's getting his whole face submerged to the point where he can't move a muscle, but it's beautifully crafted and beautifully put together. I really shouldn't say that I dislike this movie. I just have a very hard time with it.
Well, Greg worked hand in hand with Francis and a designer. Well, she's actually a visual designer, and her name is Aiko Ayashoka. And she lived 3 doors down from Gary, and she was retired. And Gary convinced her to come on board and design the outfits and make the whole aesthetic for the movie, and Francis said he wanted it based on insects and Japanese versions of animals and things like that. So when you see the red armor suit, that is all based on like insect shells. Sadie's wedding dress is based off a lizard. So
is that
like,
that's not the red one, is it?
The white one she wears with the big collar.
Oh yes.
It's based off a lizard. And Aiko was going. She said, I didn't want to come out of retirement. I was quite happy, but as a favour to Gary, because he lived down the road, and you know, I enjoy a challenge. And when Francis said to me, "You have free reign, whatever you want to do, we'll do it." She said she had to show the differences between how Lucy was wearing the orange when she was boffing the wolf in the bit, and then there was the bit where she has Mina always in the very, very high neck because she's a prude, so she had to show no skin, so all you ever see is her face. And she was talking through her process, but it was just how heavily inspired when you actually realize to take the time how Japanese the whole
styling
thing is.
Of it was. Do you know what, I would go back and look at it is with knowing that to pick up that reference. I know what that movie is now. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
There you go.
That's why I wanted to mention it, because it's an aging process one, which is what is done a lot in this movie, because you've got the aging Dracula to the up-to-date one where he's, you know, he's not makeup-ed up, but he does look fucking fine when he is in the what you would class as the modern time. Fuck me. He looks amazing. Winona Ryder and him got on famously very good friends when it came to rehearsals, but when it came down to the actual recording, and remember what we've said about Gary, method, has a work ethic. She found that too intense and felt there was danger whenever she was around him. She didn't realize she had not worked with an actor of that caliber before, of that way of working, and it scared her. And it wasn't until years later when they reconnected, and they are very good friends to this day. But she thought that's who he was.
There's two things that happened on that set. One, that her and Keanu Reeves are married and still are married, because the person that married them was
a Greek Orthodox.
So as far as they're concerned, as far as they think, they still say that they're husband and wife. But the second thing is that the reason why she switched her opinion on him was for also another reason. He was trying to elicit a reaction out of her, you know, where he's standing on the street and he's going, look at me, look at me, look at me, to Mina as she's walking past.
Trying to get,
And when he gets her attention, every time she just wasn't getting that horrified, startled, whatever that look is that they were trying to elicit from her. So Gary, being Gary, picks up a zucchini or an eggplant or an aubergine from wherever you're coming from and starts wangling it around, helicoptering it in front of himself. I thought you were going to say
he's going to eat her of it or something.
He starts doing the helicopter in front of himself, right? And she found it distasteful and disgusting. So she decided she didn't like that at all and refused to talk to him for a good week after that.
I've just freaked myself out, by the way.
I thought something happened.
I've got me slippers on, and I've been taking them off, pushing them away, pulling them back, putting them back on, and I've just done it there, and I felt like there was something on my foot, so I went to itch my foot, and then but it didn't go. So I thought there was a spider on my foot, so I've just kicked my slippers. There's fuck all there. I've just kicked my slippers off, thinking that's what it was.
The stress of it all.
That was really. I thought you were going to say he threw it off after it. Bitch.
He was just doing a weird, you know, like the helicopter thing.
I think that's quite funny. I'd piss my pants.
Yeah, but she found it distasteful, disgusting. But we all know she's a bit la-la, isn't she, Winona?
She is, but she's just making good choices right now.
Yeah, older Winona, most definitely.
Absolutely. Younger, just let things go to her head. Yeah, probably more than what she should have. And I think she was quite young when this took place. So this is, and bearing in mind the movies that she'd done, this is quite serious in respect of her career, because I'm not saying her other ones were, but like Heathers and Beetlejuice, and did she do Edward Scissorhands by this point?
Yes, I think so.
So they're like, it's almost like child friendly-ish or teenager-ish, but this is very grown up, and I don't think that's an environment that she's used to, especially with the way Gary is as a actor.
She was 20. That's what I was just checking.
See, that's still young, like.
Yeah, no, I don't think. Yeah, I can see now why she felt that way about him, not having that kind of experience of working with method actors before.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see Michael Keaton being method as a dead bioexorcist. Do you know what I mean?
No, and you're working on Heathers, where every one of the cast is fucking your age.
Yeah, and Christian Slater's not really going around poisoning people with Drano, you know. So I mean,
even though we wish he would.
So. But yeah, I mean, the movie in itself is a visual, just feast for the eyes, and it is the most successful movie Gary has ever done, box office and budget wise.
That's it. It's good to know. Do you know what? There's something about Dracula I can't quite put my finger on. I'm hoping when we do Dracula and I have to start looking into things, that maybe I do get a spark of, oh yeah, this is why. This is what it is. Because right now, I just don't feel, it's like the Wolfman.
Yeah.
Before we started this, I was like, I don't care. Well, then we started doing this, and I'm like, Larry is like, he's one of my favorites. I fucking love him, even though he is a lurker. Like, and you have kind of tainted him ever so slightly. I still quite enjoy. Such a hypocrite. I've showed this before. I have a Dracula phone case. But again, my defense, Frankenstein was not there.
I didn't do the conversion on the box office and budget to today, but in 1992, 93, the budget was 35 million.
Mm-hmm.
And it made 215 million in the box office.
That's some coin.
Yeah, so it's his most successful film ever. So,
wow. Well, we're going to leave Gary Oldman there for today.
I think so.
We have talked more than I thought we were going to.
Very much so. I've just seen the time. Woo.
Yeah. Yes. However, I was thinking halfway through, we could have possibly done this as a two-parter. And I was like, we're already too deep in. Yep. It has been interesting, though. I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to go through some of his characters, even when they are hard work to, especially when he is a supporting actor.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. But Dracula, we will be coming back to that. We will. And Gary Oldman will be very much a part of our Dracula episode as well. It's not just going to be about Bela. It's going to be about Gary too. Next week, we are... I can't remember what we're doing. I've even wrote it down. Next week, we are going...
no, go on, sorry.
We are going back into Mason's world.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, this is subject to change, people.
Yes.
This is very much subject to change. Up until right at this moment in time.
Yes.
As we are recording, it is Thursday, the 21st of September. It is nearly 10:30 at night. We will be looking at Hannibal Lecter.
Yes.
However, subject to change.
Yes. We're just waiting on a message. When we get that message, we will know for sure.
We will let you know. However, up until this point, it is Hannibal Lecter. If not, it's a big fucking surprise for you guys. Yeah. Like, it really is. Thank you all for watching. It has been absolutely fantastic getting to go over Gary Oldman's villainous characters. Personally, I could have talked about them all night, but I'm fucking exhausted.
Yeah, bedtime now.
And when I'm feeling like I've got spiders crawling over my feet, my feet are very itchy right now. So yes, thank you all for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can catch us on YouTube every Monday at 7 o'clock. All of our details are where Dan is pointing to right now, right down there, right down below. You can catch all of our back episodes on iTunes, Spotify. You can catch this one on iTunes and Spotify. All of our back episodes are on YouTube too. Give them a look. I think we're really funny and really interesting. Maybe you do too.
If you don't, we don't care. Goodbye.
And with that, so thank you everyone for sticking around and stay nerdy, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.